I was just chatting to a client about her back pain, and one of the things that happens when we're in pain or have injured ourselves is consciousness fixates on that particular part of the body, and it fixates on that part of the body through the filter of this is threatening or dangerous. That filter is an emotional interpretation, and the emotional interpretation is what makes the painful sensation the dominant part of our experience and not just a neutral sensation. So the important thing to know here is fixating on the injured part is associated with pain, and if we want to break the association with our body in pain, we need to remove the fixation. The way you remove the fixation is by not trying to fix the broken part, but instead fixate, notice the similarity. Instead, you focus on supporting it through the ability to sense the position of that part and to move the parts around it in a supportive way. So in the case of a back, that means to be able to orient the pelvis and orient the rib cage relative to each other really well. The lower back is basically the relationship between the ribs and the pelvis. So if you have a relationship between your ribs and your pelvis which is not good, your lower back will highlight that not goodness as pain. So notice that we're not fixating on the lower back, we're healing the lower back by focusing more on the ribs and the pelvis. In the case of a painful knee, rather than fixating on the knee, in order to heal the knee, we look at the foot, ankle, and the hip. And that way we're able to explore the transmission of force through the knee, and we're able to explore using the knee in a different context with a different feeling and different elastic connections and tissue connections to support the knee. Because the tissues and the fascia and all of the layers, all of the sheaths of the human body from bone outward, they all run through joints. So if you have a knee, then you have tissues that run through and cross the joint. And the fascia is the web that wraps the whole body and conducts sensation and tells us about the quality of movement. And so when we can move the foot and the hip really well, then the knee is having a different experience of itself. So a simple example of how to work with this, let's say that we're working with the back. We want to be able to sense the position of the back in space by having more control of the rib cage and the pelvis. So if I have an arch in my lower back that's causing a lot of trouble for me, or I think that it's causing trouble, it seems like there's compression in the back and spillage in the front, then a way for me to feel that and support that is hands, ribs, pelvis. So what I'm doing is I'm giving myself sensory feedback as to how force and feeling and sensation is traveling through that part of my body. So if I go like this, I can just gently, I don't have to do anything fancy, I can just gently press my hands into my lower back, and I can just gently press my lower back into my hands. Okay, that's the first cue. It's not about playing with this, it's not about playing with this yet. We just place the hands and we just lean into the support of the hands. Now, if you notice that something that simple as lean into the support of the hands now has automatically shifted the relationship in my pelvis and rib cage, okay? So I'm focusing on pelvis and rib cage, but I'm making that simpler through the touch of the hands. I'm just gonna press in. Now that I can sense this part of my body, whereas the force was dumping into a joint in my lower back that was compressed, now the force is able to pass through my lower back because it is supported. And the passing through of the force is the passing through of energy, the passing through of sensation. It no longer needs to fixate in my lower back to tell me that there's an issue, because I've communicated to my body and I've sensed in my system that it is safe, that it is held, that it is supported. And now I maintain that openness or that fullness or that feeling in the lower back. And if I want to move, I explore sensing stillness there and focusing on generating movement through other parts of my body, e.g. my feet, my hips, different types of movement, side to side, and I'm exploring how that relates to the lower back, or how to maintain that stillness in the lower back while moving these other parts. And as I move these other parts in different ways, I can explore the relationship between that part of my body and all the other parts of my body. And what I notice is, okay, some movement happens when I lift the leg. I might notice how my pelvis moves. I might notice how my breath moves. And we go to even deeper levels here where we're noticing stuff like muscle tone. Oh, my back tenses up when I do this, but it's relaxed when I do that. And then we go deeper again, like, oh, my breath shortens when I go to here. Suddenly I'm taking short labored breaths. If I explore lower here, suddenly, oh no, now my voice is tensing up. So we need to be able to introduce more quality of movement. And we introduce the quality of movement by paying attention to those subtle details. Like, I don't just want to be in this position. I want to be in that position while I'm able to speak, while I'm able to breathe, while I'm able to access an emotional state of equanimity, of peacefulness. We have to introduce these mental and emotional qualities so that we can shift our state of being into calibration and then re-educate the body on how to move from a state of health and vitality. If we don't pay attention to the mental and the emotional states, and if we don't support our body using the other layers of the human system, then we're just going to keep pushing into the same roadblock and the same pattern of compensation. And so this is the process. Introducing the qualities of breath, of sound, of voice, of muscle tone, of, complexity, being able to nuance the body. This is what I mean by nuance. We go here, and then I can wiggle, I can shake, I can move, I can dance, I can express. I have options. When you have options, you don't fixate. When you don't fixate, there's no need for that part to be fixed. When there's no need for the part to be fixed, the pain that's there can dissolve by itself into a broader sea or array of healthy parts, of support systems. When there's a human being who's having a rough time, the ecological approach is not to go in and to try to fix them and tell them there's something wrong with them and that they need to be rehabbed and thereby make them feel more broken and isolated. The approach is to go in and give them a hug, and it's to involve them in bigger games and bigger dynamics, healthier dynamics. It's to invite them to come and play soccer, to come out for lunch, to take part in a creative project, to listen to them for their experience without meeting them on the level of their pain. So we're teaching this part of the body to get out of its own way and to stop acting as a lone wolf. This is a broader ecological approach to movement. It's not fancy, it just means giving one part of your body a hug and allowing it to express and pass through the things that it's stressed about. So we use the hips, we use the ribs to support the spine, we use the hips, we use the legs, the feet to support the knees. We treat the body as a system. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful for you in some way. I hope that sheds light on some things. You need to be able to sense how much work things are doing in order to let them rest and let them relate to the other parts of your body, so the other parts of your body can move more, so that the parts of you which haven't been active and haven't been working can begin to take on more of the movement and lifestyle stress that your system has to deal with. And so you can dissipate that stress through your whole body. The human system and any healthy system is one in which stress can be dissipated from multiple parts and passing through multiple parts. The healthiest system is not attached or fixed to one way of doing things, but it is connected to a multiplicity of potential ways of doing things. It's a system where not one thing has to be true, everything can be true, and there's ways to adapt. I hope that makes sense. So this quality of non-fixation, it's a concept that you can apply to mental work and meditation. It's a concept that you can apply to chatting to your partners in a relationship. Don't fixate on anything. Maintain a present moment openness and communication and connection and, a constant revitalization of what it is that you're doing.